Hello, Star Citizens, and welcome to day, 9 of Invictus 2025. We are going to go over Anvil Aerospace, and of course, we're going to look at that Anvil Asgard and see what it actually is all about. And I'll give you some quick thoughts about it just from what I know so far. As always, make sure you are subscribed, make sure you like or dislike the video, and make sure you leave a comment so that way you can qualify for our giveaway. We are going to be giving away an MTC this month, so make sure you do that before the end of the month so that you can qualify for that. And of course, the more videos you do that on, the higher your chances of winning. And of course, if you join and you become a member, you have a higher chance of winning, even more so than that. All right, let's get into it. We have our first single manufacturer day. All right, let's get into it. We have our first single manufacturer day, just Anvil today. So here is the Asgard. Introducing Anvil's new savior of the battlefield, the Asgard, a heavily armored vehicle dropship equipped for boundless resilience in the hottest combat zones, power through relentless fire to deliver vital reinforcements, hold the front line, and keep the enemy retreating. It's for the battlefield. It doesn't look like it's supposed to be a in-space fighter, but it says it's heavily armored and it is a vehicle dropship. So I'm hoping that it can carry at least 2 tanks. If it can, then we might have something to talk about. But we got the Mark II Hornet for a war bond deal. We'll actually start off with the war bond this time, and then we'll go in and do the rest. All right, we got a $10 CCU. You know what that means? Unless it'll probably be a $5, which means it's not great. Oh, it's even worse. These are probably the worst CCUs we can get. No, because there's $10 for $5. I think I've seen that before. But yeah, you have to spend $10 to save $10. Not great at all. Actually quite poor. So there's your CCU breakdown. Now let's get back to the ships. All right. So we're starting with the Arrow, and excuse me, I'm a little under the weather, but I still gotta deliver to you guys. The Arrow, to me, it is a great fighter. However, it needs to be balanced the same way as the Avenger Titan, because right now the Avenger Titan just makes every other thing that's close to its price range not look like a bad ship, but it lessens the quality of everything else around it. I just think the Avenger Titan and that whole Arrow line, the Gladius, all of those ships from that $55 to $100 price range, they need a rebalancing, because right now I just don't get why I would choose certain ships over others. And I don't think any of the ships that cost more than the Avenger Titan are significantly better enough than the Avenger Titan for me to choose those ships. It seems to me like I should just get an Avenger Titan and wait until something in the $100 to $200 range opens up and then go for that. So I really think we need some work on that starter range, I'll say from $60 to $100. Because right now I think the Arrow is cool looking. I think it's a good ship. However, I don't see why I would spend the extra $15 to get this rather than a Titan. Unless I specifically enjoyed the Arrow, if it was my favorite ship or one of my favorite ships. The Asgard, it's $350, so it looks like we have another offer on that. So that one we'll check at the end. I'm gonna guess it's $325. We'll see at the end. At $350, let's take a look at it and see what it can do. So it comes with this Valhalla paint, which I think, oh, okay, it is $325. I said $325 and then I switched it to $320. Okay, $325 for the war bond, which I think you have to pay $10 to get $25, so that's okay. I think we have a ship that's $315. Let me see. All right, so the Constellation Aquila, and it looks like it was the Mole. Both of those are $315. So if you get either one of those and do the upgrade to the Asgard, it's $10 to get the Asgard. You're getting $25 off, basically, but you have to spend $10 to get that $25 off. So yeah, I think that's a solid price. Only thing is, we don't know exactly what else it can do. So it's a max crew of 2, all right? It carries and deploys a Tumbril Nova, so it can fit a tank in it. I thought somebody had said that it could fit 2 tanks, and I was like, doesn't look big enough to fit 2 tanks. So yeah. All right, it's a medium ship. Because it can carry a Nova tank, though, that means it can carry a number of ships inside of it too. Most specifically, I'm thinking that this thing can carry it can carry 2 Furies, and it can carry a Razor. It can carry some other ships. I would love to see what people are putting into this thing. I haven't really looked at the leaks or anything to see what people have been putting inside of it, but yeah. This thing looks like it's pretty solid, and it has this missile turret apparently that is devastating. So it has 16 size 3 missiles. It has a dual size 4 turret. It can carry 180 SCU. It's 207 speed, isn't bad for this size. It's not gigantic. It can fit on a medium pad. 2 fuel intakes. Not a lot of maneuvering thrusters, so it's probably not very maneuverable. 4 shields, so it's got the smaller shields then. Yeah, and then you got a dual size 3, 4 size 3s, and then you got the dual size 4 here, and then the missile turret. So, first look, it looks like the smallest carrier that we're going to get, right? So there are people who have a Freelancer Max right now. Those people should be looking at an Asgard unless they're specifically trying to keep the price down, which I could understand. But yeah, I think for me, the Asgard seems like the way to go for the person who needs that smaller vehicle transfer ship. I think if you have a 600i, I think you're probably not going to want to go for this because the 600i is going to get a rework to where it can carry a tank as well. And I think the 600i has a little bit more utility than something like this. At the same time, if you specifically want the drop down for, you know, your cargo area instead of the slide down, the elevator cargo area, then I could see why you would go for this. Also, this is cheaper than a 600i. Straight up, it's cheaper. So it really depends on what ships you already have, and also, are you going to be more combat focused? Because if you're going to be more combat focused, then the discussion is already over. You should be getting the Asgard as your mini carrier, right? But I have a few ships already that are carriers, like I have an A2 and stuff like that. So I feel like I don't need an Asgard, but I do like the 2 crew thing. I just wish it was a little, I have to see what the stats are as far as like how much HP it has and stuff like that. Because I was kind of looking for something that was more of a combat oriented, but not combat oriented for the ground, like combat oriented in space, you know, dogfighting kind of world. And this doesn't seem like it is that. However, it does seem like it could hold its own. So there's that. I just don't, it's not what I'm specifically looking for, but I could see why it's in the game, you know? $350, I think it's priced correctly from what I can see, what it offers, but I can see, I would definitely use an upgrade, play the CCU game to get a better price on it. The Ballista, so we talked about this a little bit the other day. I think the Ballista is overpriced. However, I do think that this price will stay where it is. Like, I don't think it'll go much higher than this. 140 is already like an increased price if I'm not mistaken. So it's definitely not something that I think a lot of people should be purchasing. At $140 for a ground vehicle, I wish it just did a little bit more. I wish it was like, I wish those legs allowed it to kind of like turn. You know how the mule turns where it can just kind of like, you know, turn on a dime? I wish it allowed, I wish those wheels allowed the Ballista to do that. I just think it needs a little bit more for it to be worth $140. So to me, this is an earning game, even though I do think it's really cool if you have it set up along with the Centurion. But I prefer the Nova tank, even though the tank can't quite, you know, shoot as large of missiles as this. I still think the tank is the overall better thing to have because you have that size 5, then you have your anti-armor, and you have, you know, you have your anti-personnel, and you have your missiles for anti-air. So yeah, I think the ballista's okay. It's just I could spend $20 less and get a tonk. So it really depends on what you need. If you specifically need that surface to air dominance like this says, then I could see why you would get it. But I could think of a ship that I would rather get instead of this. I would get a missile heavy ship rather than getting the ballista. So yeah, just really depends on what you need. The C8R. The C8R, when it came out, was huge because we didn't have the NERSA yet. So it was a way of adding a medical bed to any ship that could fit the C8R in it. Now that we have the NERSA, which can fit in more ships than the C8R, it seems like the C8R kind of dropped a little bit, but it's still a great ship. And I think it's a great ship for those smaller hangars. Like if you have a smaller hangar and maybe you only have one medical bed on your ship, or maybe you do have multiple medical, or maybe you have 0 medical beds on your ship, and this would add that medical bed in a different way, than needing a vehicle. Because if you need a vehicle and you need a medical bed, you don't always want to have to bring the NERSA with you. Sometimes you'd rather just have your hangar filled with that medical bed and then bring a different vehicle, especially now with the MTC coming out. And I do think the MTC is going up my list. The more I hear about it, the more I think about it. So I can't wait to do that review because I think it's going to turn out really great. So yeah, C8R at $65 though, I think it's solid. Yeah, I think it's a solid ship. I don't think you can go wrong with getting a C8R. The C8X. Now, this is, I think, because it's $45, I think the only people that should be worried about getting a C8X are people who specifically own a Anvil Carrack, because this thing is just better than the base C8 Pisces. And I think if you're looking specifically for something that goes along with the Carrack, I think this is it for you, because it is a little bit of an explorer along with being decent at combat, whereas I think the C8 is a little underpowered as far as firepower. Now this isn't going to win any dogfights really, but it's enough to keep you moving. But it's really just for people who have a Carrack. I think you could get. I'd just spend the extra $15 to get something else, like a Avenger Titan or something if I was going bigger. But again, this fits in a lot of ships, whereas the Avenger Titan doesn't. And if you're really willing to do a little bit more extra on the pricing, then I would say you can go all the way up to a Razor EX, and that would be a significantly better ship. So but it depends again on what you want. But the Razor EX is going to have a quantum drive, which means you can go further away from your mothership. But it also costs $110 more. So it really depends on what you want to do. Speaking of which, the Carrack. So the Carrack, to me, is one of those ships that if you got it when it was cheaper, keep it. It's 100% worth the value. Now at $600, it's reaching that level of, all right, that's about how much it's worth. I could say it could probably go up to $650, and I would still say it's still, around what it's worth. $700 might be a little too much, but $650, and it could still kind of live in its space. It's the Pathfinder. It's the one that charts the jump points. It's going to be one of the best exploration ships in the game. If it was a capital, it would be the best exploration ship in the game. But I think that title goes to the Odyssey. I think some people could easily disagree though, especially if you got the Carrack Expedition, which I think is a really unique version of this. Yeah, so what can I say about the Carrack? I mean, it's a great ship for multi-crew. You can fit a lot of things in the top, including cargo. You can drop a ton of cargo in that top hangar if you don't want to take a ship with you. It can fit. It comes with an Ursa. So it comes with a vehicle, which is again why I say it's kind of worth that $600, and that's why I think it can still add another $50 and still be worth it, because then you're getting what you pay for still. Yeah, I think the Carrack is a great ship. I think people waited for it for so long that it kind of lost its luster to a lot of people. But then when we had the drama about how it opened at the bottom and they changed the way the those parts open to where it's now a legitimate cargo ship, I think that's what brought it to where it needs to be. So happy for the Carrack owners, especially the ones who got it for what, $350, $325. The Centurion, so I kind of talked about this a little bit. I like the Centurion. I actually like it a little bit more than I like the Ballista, and the reason I like it a little bit more is because weapons with lasers are always like, you don't run out. So I can take this thing out at a further range than the Ballista, because one of the problems with the Ballista, you have to refill those missiles. They don't auto regenerate, right? So the Centurion can go out and stay out, whereas the Ballista, you're gonna need somebody to keep bringing you missiles, which might give away your position, you know, much easier if you're trying to hide this thing. And yeah, I think the Centurion is just, it's the more consistent, but at the same time, it's going to take a lot more effort for you to kill the ship than it is for the Ballista. The Ballista can shoot one missile, one kill. Whereas the Centurion, you're going to have to be on point with a lot of those missile shots, and even then, you still probably won't kill it. You'll just weaken it. So it doesn't make the Ballista irrelevant, is what I'm saying. It's still useful, but I think they're really meant to work as a combo. But if I can only choose one, I'd probably get the Centurion, because I don't necessarily need to kill the ship that is coming towards me. And if they blow off chaff or whatever, they're gonna block the missile anyway. So I'd rather shoot at them, get them to break off target, which gives my guys enough time to either find cover, or, you know, maybe it stops the bomber from bombing, whatever. It could be a lot of different things, but the idea is the Centurion should just get them to break contact, and then that allows your team to do whatever you need to do. So also cheaper price by 20 bucks. I think that's great. So that's where I got the Centurion. The Crucible. I think this is going to end up being one of those ships that everybody wishes they bought when it was cheaper, because I can see this going up the same way the Carrack did. I can see this becoming a $650 ship when it's all said and done, if not more, especially if this becomes the capital like I believe it will. I do believe this is going to be the repair capital. I think it's going to grow in size, and I think that when it does so, people are going to wish they bought it at $350. I got mine for $250, I believe. I think I saved $100 playing the CCU game. I probably could have saved more. I think there's some people that got it for like $200 flat. I think I got mine for $250. But yeah, I'm good with where I'm at. You know, getting a ship like this for $250 when I think it's going to end up being $650, maybe $750, is an absolute steal. So why do I think that? The heavy repair, repair it seems a little far off, because mostly right now all we can do is like hull repair, you know, like the reverse salvage gameplay, so to speak, where you're putting the RMC on rather than taking it off. I think it's going to get much more complicated than that. I think medical gameplay and repair gameplay are going to be very similar in the way that the medical has to repair the body, and then of course, you know, ship repair is repairing the ship. But I think those types of gameplay are going to be very similar, and because I'm interested in medical gameplay, I can see repair as being something else that I would be like super interested in. So I'm going to have all of the repair ships, every single one that they release, I'm going to have, because I think that's going to be a massive type of gameplay that I don't think a lot of people are going to be interested in, but I'm going to be uniquely interested in. Like, I'm interested in science and repair and medical, whereas I think most people are interested in combat and or you know, specific types of industry like salvaging and mining, whereas I'm like, I kind of want to be support. I like the support role. I'm interested in combat, but not so much that I need to be the guy shooting. I just want to be in the helper situation, I think. So I think that's what I really appreciate about the Crucible. But why everybody else should is because I don't think a lot of people are willing to spend $350 on a repair ship. I just don't think a lot of people are that invested in this type of gameplay to where they will spend that much money on a repair ship. I think a lot of people will purchase it in game, but I don't think enough people will purchase this at a low price that when it goes up in price, it'll kind of become rare. And I already think it's rare. I don't think there's a whole lot of people who own a Crucible. And so when it goes up in price, I think even less people will purchase it. And I think that's where this ship is going to really earn its value, because it can repair anything. It can repair a capital ship all the way down to the smallest ships, and it can do it right there in this bay where you see it at. And that bay can detach so that you can do 2 repair jobs at once. You can have a team in here working on a small ship, and then those arms that are holding the bay inside of it, those arms can go off, and they have their own little retractable arms that you can use to go and repair another ship. So I think that's what's really cool about the Crucible. You can repair 2 ships at once. It's got this really cool, like, this little bubble at the top you see that can spin both ways, so it can turn, and it turns by itself while the rest of the ship stays facing the other direction. It's just a really cool ship. I did a review on it, go check it out. But yeah, it's one of my favorite ships in Star Citizen as far as like what it can do. So yeah, it's in my fleet. It'll stay in my fleet. This is one of those, it's never leaving my fleet. I don't care what else comes out. I'm gonna keep this one. All right, the Hornet Mark II. This is one of the better, I think, fighting ships in the game, but it's right in the middle. Maybe I'd say slightly above the middle. The Mark II is good, but what I'd say about the Mark II is I don't quite think it's worth $175. I think you're gonna wanna get one of the variants to actually make it worth its while. I think the Mark II specifically, outside of the variant, is for the person who knows they're gonna need to pick up a little bit of cargo while they're out fighting, or the person who's like doesn't wanna be limited to a non-combat ship when they know that they're doing like, you know, smaller box missions and stuff like that. And it's also good for the person who knows they need to bring a lot of gear with them when they go out fighting, because you're gonna go do FPS missions as well. So then you can put all your gear in those 2 SCUs worth of boxes, and then you can go do what you need to, get out, access all your guns and stuff, and then go do, you know, a bunker mission or something, and then come out and hop back into your combat ship where you won't get caught off guard because you brought some other ship that isn't necessarily prepared for a fight. So I can understand why people would like the F8C Hornet Mark II. If you have an F7A, you already understand that this is not a ship you're gonna own. The F7A is better in almost every way, especially if you put that Heartseeker upgrade on that F7A. That becomes, to me, the best medium fighter in the game. Now, it just depends on the pilot, of course. It doesn't matter which ship you buy if you're not great at the piloting aspect. And I can tell you this because I am really good at buying ships, but not really good at flying ships. I got my butt handed to me multiple times when we were doing Pirate Swarm and all that stuff, because I do have some stuff to learn about when and where to let off, you know, chaff and stuff like that, and countermeasures, because that's my undoing all the time, is missiles. I feel like that shouldn't be my undoing. It's fairly easy to dodge them, but I always get caught. Anyway, I think if you have an F7A, obviously this talk isn't for you. The Mark II is, again, for the person who doesn't think that they necessarily need the medical aspect, but they want to be able to get out of their ship, carry some stuff with them to go do something else, and then hop back in their ship and still be in a capable fighter. The Super Hornet Mark II. Now this one kind of let me down a little bit. I was hoping the Heartseeker variant would really like make this one hype, but at $240, it's unless you specifically like 2-person fighters and like you need that other person in the ship with you, and you're going to consistently have that other person in the ship with you, I don't think I could do the Super Hornet Mark II, because I would like for the Super Hornet Mark II to be just a little bit tougher than it is, or have a slightly better loadout than it has, because what happens is if you have an F7A and you put that Heartseeker loadout on it, it's basically a Super Hornet Mark II, but with 1 person instead of 2. So it really negates the need for a Super Hornet Mark II, and I just don't think that should be the case. Now, don't get me wrong, the Super Hornet Mark II with a second person can have that turret swivel around and everything, so it is slightly better, but If I paid 175 for an F7C and then upgraded it to an F7A for free, I only paid 175. Now, if I add the Heartseeker upgrade, which I think is 30 bucks, that makes the Super Hornet $270, and that makes my F7A with the Heartseeker upgrade, that makes that $205. So I'm saving $65, and the only thing that I lose is the ability to swivel my turret. I don't think swiveling your turret is worth $65, which is why I think the Super Hornet Mark II still needs a little bit of a bump. And I do think it's a little tougher. So I think you do lose some of the toughness when you get to the F7A. But again, it's not $65 worth of toughness and swivel, right? So I think the Super Hornet needs a little bit of a bump, but it did just come out a few months ago. So I do expect it to get that bump at some point. I have one, and I'm looking to get rid of it until that bump comes around. Because right now it's kind of just letting me down, even though I don't think it's a bad ship. It's just not what I specifically needed. And what I specifically need is a 2-seater heavy fighter that is like significantly in its own lane. Like it's not, oh, there's another ship that's almost exactly the same. I want something that's in its own lane. And so I looked at the Hurricane, I looked at the Scorpius. Right now, the Paladin is my #1 choice, even though it's technically for 4 people. It can be operated with 2. And so that's right now at the top of my chain, but I would very much so prefer that a dedicated heavy fighter is out rather than me having to hop into something as large as the Paladin. The Hornet Tracker. So let's talk about both of these, the Hornet Ghost and the Hornet Tracker. Now, one of the things I don't like is that the Mark II variant, on the Ghost side, it loses some of its stealth. It used to be like a 40% stealth bonus, and now it's like a 15 or 25%. It's one of those two. And I don't like that. I think it should be 40%. It's literally the only fighter that has the void armor. I think it's weird to me that it doesn't have that. So I think the Mark II Ghost is still valuable, though. I would get it over the base Hornet, unless, again, you need those 2 SCU of cargo. I think the Ghost is the best of the base Hornets. I'm still looking forward to perhaps getting a Wildfire variant. I know it was like a Mark I specific thing, but I would love to get a part 2 of that, just because I think it's just fair to, if you're gonna do a Mark II of everything, you know, just throw them all in there. So I'm still looking forward to a Wildfire. I don't know if we'll get one, but yeah. I think the Ghost is the best. I think the Tracker is the best if you specifically need a recon ship or a tracker ship, scout ship, right? Because I think this is something that is kind of like, I don't think a lot of people think about it, but what this picture shows is exactly why the Tracker is great. There's going to be people that have those ballistas we talked about, that have those Centurions we talked about. And this ship is going to be able to identify those and take them out very quickly. Those things don't have anti-missile, defenses. As soon as you shoot a missile at one of those, it's over. It's done. That thing is gone. Unless it moves, and it moves like somewhere where it can't get hit, like into a cave or something. So this is the anti-ground fighter. Not to mention, if you're tracking ships, its brother, the Ghost, is much easier to track if you have the Tracker. So don't sleep on the Tracker. Even though I'd rather have the Ghost and be the one hiding, the Tracker is still a great ship. And again, I think both of these are better than the base. And $10 better? Absolutely. So it really just depends on what your type of gameplay is going to be. But I think all of these are great buys. I don't think there's a single one of these that I would be like, don't buy it. Oh my God, no, you're gonna fail. Then there's the F8C Lightning. Oh, F8C Lightning. Oh, F8C Lightning. It's the ship that we all love, but we all love to hate. It's weird. It's in a place where it's not a true heavy fighter. It's more like a medium heavy fighter. Like it's somewhere between medium and heavy. And also it's slower than it should be. The guns on it are great. It has a lot of them. But I really think this should have been a 2-seater. I honestly think if the F8C was a 2-seater, I think it could have added something like a little bit of a larger weapon, and I think it would have been perfect where it was. But I'm still hoping, because we have this, right? We have the F7C Super Hornet. I'm still hoping that we can get an F8C Super Lightning. This is not a Hornet Lightning, right? It's not a Hornet, it's a Lightning, right? So what would it call a Lightning Super? No, Super Hornet, Super Lightning, Extra Lightning, Ultra Lightning, Massive, Mega Lightning, whatever you call it. I'm still holding out hopes that we'll get a 2-seater F8C, an F8C Super Lightning, or whatever we want to call it, where they increase the turret on the top, add that second seat, and that would be incredible. That would be, to me, something that I've been waiting for a while. So I'm holding out hopes for that. I do think the F8C Lightning has its place, but it still needs balancing. It really needs balancing. If you're able, of course, to get one, because of course you have to have one of those golden tickets in order to get one. If you're looking for a golden ticket, go check out my Discord, my Billionaire Ninjas Discord. We have a lot of people on there that still have extra tickets, so go out, check it out, and you might like it. We have a really cool community on our Discord, actually. It's a really cool community. I need to actually get on there a little bit more and talk to folks. But hey, this is the life of a YouTuber. I gotta make the videos, and then I gotta stream, and then I gotta, you know, prep scripts for other videos, and it's a life, you know, it's a life. But yeah, I like the F8C Lightning. I don't love the F8C Lightning, but I do think, and this is what I think a lot of people are not prepared for. I think the F8C Lightning will eventually be the superior fighter. I do think this will be, I don't know if it'll be the best heavy fighter or the best medium fighter, but I do think it's going to be in the top 3 of fighters in the game when it's all balanced and said and done. So if you have $300 to spend on a 1-seater fighter, I can see why you'd want it. It's really cool looking. I have one. I actually have 2, but I only have those because of how much money I spent in the game. And trust me, you don't want to spend that much money in the game just to get this. But at the same time, I'm a huge fan. I'm going to stay a fan of the F8C. I just can't suggest other people purchase it right now, unless you're willing to play the long game and wait for it to really be balanced the way it needs to be. All right, the Gladiator. Now, this is a ship that I used to tell people don't even think about it. But now with it had a little bit of an extra bump given to it. I want to say last year, the end of last year. Now it is a worthy fighter. This is one of the very few ships in the game that is a legitimate fighter, and it is a legitimate bomber. You can take 2 people with it. It's the only ship that I was considering outside of the Super Hornet, but I don't need it because I have another ship that can do some of what I have. 2 ships that can do separate things, but the Gladiator is a legitimate fighter now. It can take it's kind of in that same boat as the F8C, except it doesn't have as many weapons, of course, and it's obviously half the price. But I think it fits somewhere between that medium fighter and heavy fighter because of its bombing capabilities. So you tell me what you need, and I could probably find something in that Anvil space to give you. This is for the people that know that they're going to be fighting larger ships and that are really good at getting those torpedoes on target, because that's what I think a lot of people lack, is the ability to get those torpedoes on target. But if you can get those torps on target, then I think this ship might be for you, especially if you know you're really good at dodging fighting. Like, you don't want to go head up with another fighter in the Gladiator. You want to kind of stay off target and get your shots off on the larger ships. But if you're going against a heavy fighter, you have a better chance as long as you're a really good pilot. So it's really lean heavier on the bomber. There's a reason it puts bomber before fighter when it says versatile bomber and fighter, because it is better at bombing than fighting, but it can keep you alive if you're a decent enough pilot. I love the ship. I think the type of balancing that I'm asking for with the F8C is what we got with the Gladiator. Now, it took much longer with the Gladiator. I think it took 8-9 years before we got the actual upgrade we needed for the Gladiator to be useful. So don't hold your breath on the F8C. We just got that, what, 2 years ago? So, we still got another 6 years before we might get the Gladiator version of it. But I love the Gladiator. If you have it, I don't think you made a wrong decision. The Hawk is for specifically the person who's a bounty hunter. If you need to go out and fight and you know you're going to be doing a lot of light fighter, activities, I think you get the Hawk if you know that you need to bring somebody home bring somebody in to turn in, and you're going to be capturing people alive. If you're going to be capturing people alive, the Hawk is probably the best fighter for you. I wouldn't pay $100 for it. You can get this very easily for like $90, $85, $90, and I think that's what really people should be paying for it. That being said, the Hawk is the Batman of ships, right? It's for the person who knows for a fact, like, I want to do bounty hunting. But a second thing is, if one of your friends doesn't mind riding in there, it's a 2-seater. You can take a person with you, put them in the back of this thing, and they can just sit back there, and then you can transport one of your friends with you. So it's a really good pickup ship for that as well. Like, imagine, one of your friends is stranded on a planet because their ship blew up, but they lived, and you got to go pick them up. You take the Hawk, they hop in the back, not the comfiest ride, but hey, you're not picking up a VIP, you're picking up a friend. And friends understand that that sometimes you got to get picked up in a Hawk to get back where you need to go. So yeah, I like it for that dual purpose. I think the Hawk is a great ship, bar none. The Hurricane. Now, the Hurricane is the only other ship that I considered for my two-person. Well, it's not the only other one. So I have the Scorpius. I have the Scorpius, the Paladin, and the Hurricane. Those are the three that I consider. I honestly just don't like the look of the Hurricane as much. I don't think it's an ugly ship. It's just, when I think of like, oh, what do I want my 2-seater to look like? It's not the Hurricane. But it's not off of the list. It's still on the list, which means I'm willing to overlook that. Because I do think the Hurricane is a fun ship. What it doesn't have in looks, it makes up for in fun. I have flown the Hurricane a few times, and I've had fun every single time that I've been inside of a Hurricane. But I've also flown the Scorpius multiple times, and I've had fun every single time I was in a Scorpius. So it's one of those things where I'm like, yeah, I can see the Hurricane as being fun, but I like the way the Scorpius looks better. So that being said, if you have a Hurricane, I think it's a great ship. I don't think the Scorpius is better. I think it's just different. But I do think they're for different roles a little bit. But this is a legitimate heavy fighter. Every time I'm in a Hurricane, I feel like I'm in a heavy fighter. I don't feel like I'm in a medium fighter masquerading as a heavy fighter or anything like that, like maybe the F8C. But yeah, I think the Hurricane is great. I just think it needs a little bit more balancing now too, but I do think it's great. The Legionnaire. Okay, this is the only ship that can do what it can do. So straight up, if you want to do boarding, right now the Legionnaire is the only option. So if you're not sure that you want a Legionnaire, then just get yourself a small little, I love the way the Legionnaire looks, by the way. I never truly looked at the Legionnaire's looks, but if you look at it from the side and the front, all of those angles are really cool. I think the front angle is actually its worst angle, but every other angle, this thing is incredible looking. I love the way the Legionnaire looks. But that being said, this is the only boarding ship you can have. If you want to wait for another boarding vessel, then I think you get a CCU to this one and then wait. But I don't think you don't simply not purchase this, because this ship could sell for like 150, 175, and I think it would still be worth its value. So get a CCU if you're not sure, but this is the only boarding vessel you can have. So it's the best. The Liberator. Okay, we're going to come back to the Liberator because I have a lot to say about the Liberator. Let's go to the Spartan. The Spartan is for the, it's weird now, right? Because if you have the Spartan and then you have the MTC, it makes me wonder, like, which one would you rather have? The Spartan can fit more people in it, but the MTC has gun racks. It has like enough gun racks for your whole crew. It's got suit lockers for a crew. Like, it really is like a mobile tactical center. And I feel like I would have expected these to be flipped. I would have thought the MTC would be the troop transport and this would be the And this would be what the MTC is, where this was filled with a bunch of gun racks and a lot of suit lockers. So I feel like these are flipped, and that's what makes it kind of weird. I don't know if I would get a Spartan as long as the MTC is around. However, they do serve different roles, so I don't want to try to make it seem like they're the same thing, because they're not. The Spartan is really to get a lot of people moved on the ground where you know anti-air is going to be a problem. I need to move 8, 10 people, a whole strike force, whatever. I need to move them all on the ground so that anti-air can't touch me, right? That's the main purpose of the Spartan. It's for people who know that they're going to be doing ground combat, who know that they're going to be doing bunker runs. Whatever can carry this thing, you take that ship, you land it far enough away, you get in your Spartan, you drive up to the bunker, and you hit the bunker, right? I get that. The MTC, though, however, seems to me a little bit more well-equipped for if you don't make it out alive all the time of that bunker, right? So I can imagine somebody pulling up with a NERSA, somebody pulling up with an MTC, your MTC is stocked to the brim with all of the gear you need, and then your NERSA is also stocked to the brim with gear, but it's got all your medical gear in it. And you have your suits and everything inside of the MTC, and then you have a NERSA that's got all of your medical stuff, and of course the medical bed that you can respawn in if you die while you're inside of the bunker. And I think that combination, to me, is better. I would much rather have that combination for what, $110 than have an $80 Spartan. So I'd rather have that combination, and I think that's where the Spartan is at. So I think the Spartan might need a little bit of something else. Maybe give it some more internal storage or something to make it more worth that money. Even though, again, they do have different roles. The Terrapin. The terrible Terrapin. So we're going to do the Terrapin and the Terrapin Medic together. I think the Terrapin Medic kind of made the Terrapin kind of lose its luster a little bit, because it has that tier... The Terrapin Medic has that tier 2 bed in it. I really wish it was a tier 1 bed. They could have sold this thing for $250 if they would have just put a tier 1 bed in it. But I get why they didn't. Maybe they're waiting for some other manufacturer to put a tier 1 bed in. And maybe that'll be a 2-person ship rather than a 1-person. Technically, this is a 2-person now, but we'll discuss. The Terrapin was always overpriced because it really is just a Pathfinder and like a recon ship, like a scout ship. And it's really tough, so it can really ensure that you get the information back to where you need to get it to without dying, right? And I think that's the main reason for a Terrapin. I just don't think that even with those abilities, it is worth $220. I think this should have been a $175 ship at most, preferably $150, maybe $150 war bond and then $175, credit. That would have made a lot more sense for a ship like this. At $220, it really is overpriced. It's really just a ship that people buy because they like the way it looks, or they're just fans of like this particular type of ship. I had a Terrapin, but it was gone as soon as this came out, because this is an incredible ship. This ship is, to me, this is the reason why the C8R isn't as great of a ship to own anymore, because the Terrapin Medic has a tier 2. Healing tier 2 wounds while you're coming out of a bunker is excellent, because most of the time that's what makes you have to return to base when you just want to go out doing bunker, is because you can't heal your tier 2 wounds inside of a C8R, and you can't heal them in a NERSA. So going back to what I said about the Spartan, right? Now we're going way out of the cost range of this, right? But I would much rather have a Terrapin Medic, which can't hold all the suits and stuff, but I'd rather have a Terrapin Medic, and I'd rather have an MTC. But again, if you got anti-air, the Terrapin Medic isn't an option, which is why I said the NERSA and the MTC, because then you wouldn't be able to land the Terrapin Medic close enough. So to me, I think the Terrapin Medic is the ultimate version of the Terrapin. I still wish it had that size or that tier 1 bed in it, because I think that would have flipped it to something like, I think that would have made it even better. Like, I think that would have made it to where people were buying these things in droves, because a tier 1 bed in a ship is just something we don't have. And for $250, I think a lot of people would have bought that. So I get it. Maybe they just were like, well, we don't want to sell the Terrapin for even more money. But I think you could have justified it. I think that was, I like the tier 2 bed, but I think the tier 1 would have made it much better. And then the Valkyrie, not our last ship. We got to still go back and do the Liberator, but the Valkyrie I think is a really great dropship. I think it's the best of the dropships outside of the A2. The A2 I think is the better dropship because you have more to do inside of an A2. And I think the amount of people you can carry in an A2, because you can literally fit 2 Spartans inside of an A2 and load up the Spartans. I just think the A2 is the ultimate dropship. Right now, I do think that'll change because I do think at some point the Ironclad Assault will end up being the best dropship. So, but for right now, I think the A2 is the best. So the Valkyrie is it's the greatest value dropship because in order to get the A2, you have to spend $750. Now, of course, playing the CCU game, you could probably get it for like, I think the cheapest I've ever seen it for is 190 or 200. No, it was like 215. But that was long term. I think that took them 3 years to get it at that price. And it was, meticulous CCU crafting, right? Whereas the Valkyrie, I've seen people get the Valkyrie at 150 with only a year of, saving up stuff. So you can get the Valkyrie at really cheap. Well, no, not 150, 175 is what I saw. But yeah, I think you can get the Valkyrie pretty cheap. I think it's worth it. It had a performance upgrade, I think, like 6 or 7 months ago, maybe a little bit longer ago than that. But yeah, I think it's right where it needs to be. It's got the right guns and everything, as long as you use it for what it's intended for. This isn't a ship versus ship type of ship. It can combat other drop ships, but for the most part, those guns on it are really just for that. They're not really to get into like a scuffle with other ships. This ship is for you to land, drop off a vehicle, drop off a bunch of troops, and keep it moving, right? The only thing I'll say, though, is with this being 375 and the Anvil Asgard being 350, this one can't carry a tank. The Asgard can. So I think this is really weird for Anvil to create a ship that can kind of combat itself. Like the Valkyrie can obviously carry more people and it has more crew. So it's more so built for the people. Like this is a people dropship, an infantry dropship, whereas the Asgard is more of a vehicle dropship, right? So I get that they're different and I don't want to, make it seem like they're the same ship, but I think most people would rather drop the larger vehicle when they're doing ground ops, and then, or multiple vehicles, because you can fit multiple vehicles in the other. I think most people would rather drop multiple vehicles and have less people, because let's be honest, most people aren't filling up a Valkyrie. Most people aren't putting 15 people in a Valkyrie. They're putting 8 people in a Valkyrie. And guess what? You can fit 8 people in an Asgard. So that's what I'm saying. Like, if I only need 8 people, I think I'm gonna just take the Asgard. I think there's 4 jump seats inside the Asgard, plus the 2 pilot, or the 1 pilot seat. Then I think there's a second pilot seat, and then, or like a co-pilot seat. And then I think there's a turret. So now we're at 7, and then there's a jump seat. So that's 8. That's 8 seats inside of the Asgard, and I think most people are not bringing more than 8 people with them, which makes the Valkyrie really more so for people who know for a fact they're bringing more than 8 people with them and don't need a larger vehicle. So that's kind of where I'm at with the Asgard versus the Valkyrie. Also, Valkyrie's $25 more. So, I don't think that's a big deal if you're already in the $350 range, but it is different. So make your choice. Are you bringing more people or are you bringing more vehicles? If you're bringing more people, get the Valkyrie. If you're bringing more vehicles or better vehicles or larger vehicles, then you should be bringing the Asgard. All right, now let's go back to the Liberator, and we'll end on the Liberator. I think we already saw the price. There was one of these that we needed to go back and check the CCU for, which I think was the Hornet. No, we checked that. It was only $10, right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was only $10. 165, 175, but we'll check that just to make sure. But let's go back to the Liberator. So to me, the Liberator is in a weird place because we don't know anything about it. Right now, if you want a ship that can carry other ships and carry other vehicles, right? You don't have a lot of choices. The Asgard entered the fray, but obviously not on the level of the Liberator. The Liberator is like 3 times what the Asgard offers. However, it's not 3 times the price. It's only twice the price, right? Barely, not even twice the price, right? So that leaves the Ironclad Assault, and then the C variants of the Hercules variants of Crusader. So an A2 750 is going to be a better fighting ship, as in fighting off other ships. However, it's again $750, and you can't carry as many vehicles in that as you can on this. So the better fighting ship, A2, the better carrier, the Liberator. But the Liberator is a dedicated carrier. So then let's take the base Ironclad. The base Ironclad can't take tanks, so it's already limited in that way. And if that opening is not wide enough for a tank, that means it's also limited on the amount of ships that you can put inside of it. Also, it's only internal cargo. This has area on the top and on the front where you can put, like their landing pads where you can attach ships to. So it loses. It loses on the ship carrying. Same thing with the Ironclad Assault, except the Ironclad Assault does have an opening wide enough to fit vehicles in. So I think if I'm bringing a bunch of vehicles, I'm probably going to want the Ironclad Assault. And if I'm bringing a bunch of ships, I'm going to want the Liberator. And I think that's really what the difference is. And I think that's why people should get the Liberator. If you know you're going to be transporting your vehicles often, not once or twice, but often, then I think you should get a Liberator, because you're that putting ships, it's a ship shipping ship, right? That's what I think. Who said that first? I think it was Algorand from Info Runners who said that first. But it might be Execute. So shout out to those guys over at Info Runners. Go check them out. But the Liberator, to me, I think is if you have a bunch of ships, you get the Liberator. If you know you're going to be moving them around a lot. If you have a bunch of vehicles and you know you're going to be moving those around a lot, then you get the Ironclad Assault. Now, I think, to me, I'd rather have the Ironclad Assault because it's $50 cheaper right now. But at the same time, I don't think that makes the Liberator not worth it. I think the Liberator is still worth it. I just think we need a little bit more information on the Liberator, because I melted my Liberator once the Ironclad Assault came out. Or maybe I melted it for the Odyssey. I don't know. I definitely melted it, though. I don't have one in my fleet anymore. But I'm open to putting the Liberator back. I just need a little bit more information about it. I needed to go into the pipeline or something. I just need an update, because right now I don't see why I would choose the Liberator over the Ironclad Assault unless I specifically needed to ship a lot of my smaller ships. And so I need more information about it. But I still think it's a great ship. I think it's a great buy for anybody who knows they need to ship ships. All right, let's get to that last CCU and check that out. Okay, no, we did check out this one. We checked out this one. So it must have been a different one. Oh no, we did check this out. So we already looked at the CCU. The CCU for the Asgard was $25, and you had to pay $10 to get $25. So that's the CCU. We got 2 CCUs, this one, and then this is $10 to get $10. So those are your 2 CCUs. The Asgard one might be okay if you need it, if you're in that price bracket to where you need it. Other than that, it's a good one, not a great one. So it's all about what you need right now. I'll probably pick up one of those Asgard CCUs, but not because I might need it for an upgrade, because I might end up wanting the Asgard. I'll see. But yeah, that is it for this one. I will see you guys in the next one. Shout out to the members and shout out to everybody who watched, actually. I appreciate it. So I'll see you, I guess in 2 days, really, for the next one. All right? Peace.